Today we are talking about turbochargers. So this is a turbo. Its job is to send compressed air to the engine. But look, let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. So the turbo is made up of 5 basic components. There are more, but this is just a simplified version. To start with, we have the compressor housing, which is how the air gets compressed. It utilizes centrifugal forces as the air spins around it. Then we have the compressor, which sucks the air in and sends that air spinning around the compressor housing. The center cartridge, which has oil and sometimes water depending on the turbo flowing through it, as well as bearings for the turbine shaft to go through. The water is there only to cool the turbo assembly down. But again, some turbochargers work a little bit differently. Next up, we have the turbine, which catches exhaust gases to spin the compressor on the other side of the center cartridge. Now, if you didn't know, the compressor and the turbine are connected through that center shaft. And finally, the turbine housing, which allows for a method of controlling the flow of exhaust gas that would otherwise hit the turbine. The method of control I just spoke about is called a wastegate, and it looks like this. Or it can look like this. It just depends on how exactly the engine has been modified or if it's stock. Sometimes the manufacturers will use an internal gate. However, the physical function is always the same. They all have a reference pressure from the manifold, which then pushes on the diaphragm and spring. Once a certain pressure is present on the diaphragm, a valve opens, allowing exhaust gas to bypass the turbine. Without this, the turbo will continuously make more and more and more pressure until the turbo blows or your engine does. So, this air and exhaust gas needs to be routed by piping to the engine and to the exhaust system respectively. Remember that more air plus more fuel, along with a good tune, generally means more power. But this is not always the case, and it will be explained a little bit better in another video further on in the series. So while I'm putting on the piping, let me dispel some misconceptions that I've heard over the last few years. Yes, it is possible to turbocharge any combustion engine. Whether or not it's a good idea is an entirely different story. Next, that choo 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 sound that you can sometimes hear from other cars. Now, that just means that there is a turbo on that car, but no blow-off valve or diverter valve. That choo 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 sound you're hearing is a pressurized air forcing its way back through the turbo and being chopped up by the spinning compressor wheel. And no, it does not make your turbo spin backwards. Now, air filters are important. They prevent debris from, well, in my case, because not all cars have turbos, hitting the compressor wheel and causing damage. It sounds obvious, yeah. But I have seen where some people do not run any filters at all. The compressor can spin at hundreds of thousands of RPM, so they have to be super balanced as a result. Any rock or any kind of debris hitting that can upset the balance and ultimately screw up the turbo. Okay, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions or additions, please let me know in the comments, and remember, knowledge is horsepower.